Imagine a vibrant discussion between people that includes both openness and critical thought in the pursuit of truth. The Purchasing Truth podcast is an experience, a journey, an exploration of the impact that negative messages in politics and the media have on our families, community, society, and nation. Join your hosts, Bill Stierle and Tom Hazard, to discover new concepts and language strategies that will reveal effective ways of establishing truth. This podcast series will tackle current events, leadership challenges, healthcare confusion, integrity in business, and many other areas that affect us all. Gain clarity and understanding of the various truth perspectives. Welcome to Purchasing Truth.
Welcome back to Purchasing Truth. I'm Tom Hazard, along with your host, Bill Stierle. And Bill, boy, we are in a different place than we have been in a long, long time in this country.
It's true.
It's really uncharted territory. And I think, what is happening to truth here in the last days of the Trump presidency.
Right.
And because there's some very different things going on. I mean, we're now at the point where, while he probably will never concede, President Trump at least understands the writing on the wall that he's not going to be in the White House on January 21st, 2021.
Right.
The transition has now started in earnest, at least from a government funding and acknowledgement perspective with the General Services Administration, the GSA. They finally came out and wrote a letter that, yes, the transition is going to happen. The money is allowed, and the vetting by the government of, administration staffers and, cabinet people, nominees can happen. So, I mean, things are starting to happen now.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
And, we've gotten to this place where, I mean, I'm curious what's going to happen next. I mean, you've got almost 80 million people that voted for Joe Biden, right? And let's talk about some of those realities, and then maybe can we put ourselves in the shoes of the Trump voter who was so heavily invested? Because there's a lot of them.
I think so. The big thing, Tom, too, is we're at a moment of time that's sort of very similar to the quickening of an announcer's voice at a gymnastics meet when they're on the balance beam and they're going to do their dismount, and it's like the announcer knows it's coming, the dismount, the audience knows the dismount is coming. There's a difficulty to make sure that they stick the dismount. They're wondering if the dismount is going to be wobbly or not, because that's one place that most people can see that votes can be taken off or points can be taken off by not sticking the dismount, right?
Yeah.
And there's the anticipation I wonder if it's going to take place or not. I'm wondering if she or he is going to make the dismount. It's usually the she part of it in this equation.
Well, and as we often say, is he or she going to stick the landing, right?
Is he or she going to stick the landing? And all of this energy, the resistance, what are the different moves that Trump and his team is doing in the last part of their performance. I didn't even call it a presidency right there. I called it a performance.
I think that's
the last part of it's the last part of the performance. They're literally sticking the landing somehow. And the rest of us as audience members, it's forcing us into the stand. And meanwhile, it's sort of like, Joe Biden and his team is already, like sitting on the bench and on the court and waiting to go on and play the game. And they're going like, well, he's not getting off the court. So why don't we just get on the court and start playing, because he's like dragging this thing out. We're not going to sit here and watch this. We have work to do. We need to go out there and, go ahead and get off the bench and do this. Right. So the anxiousness, the nervousness, the worried, the scared that people feel is, what is he going to say or do at the end? Now, the people that don't want him to leave the court are in the place of, don't go. You told us that there was fraudulent votes. Why are you leaving when you told us there were fraudulent voices? Oh, you have to leave because and then just fill in whatever thing. The deep state won't let you, the Democrats won't let you, the Republicans around you are too weak to stand up to the Democrats, the stuff, and they're not looking at the 79,819 votes at this time and counting for Joe Biden versus the 73,879 million votes for Trump.
It's actually over 6 million vote differential now.
That's right, over 6 million differential. Now, here's an important marketing propaganda piece. This is so important.
Oh, I'm waiting. Yeah.
If the votes would have been 3 million over,
right,
the way he said that, the way Hillary was 3 million over,
right,
it would have been a dogfight for the next 40 days, because the propaganda message was accurate. A propaganda message becomes a true message because it's already planted as the seed. Because it's double the amount, he's actually on wobbly ground now, because it's not, well, if the 3 million, I guess the 3 million was, but how did they get 6 million more? I mean, how did they get 3 million more than the other 3 million that used to call fraudulent? How'd they do that? And how'd they do that in different states? See, it's not congruent. It's sour. The propaganda message is sour.
Yeah, you're right. He always said for the last 4 years that
3 million,
he really
3
didn't
million,
lose
3
the
million,
popular
3
vote
million,
because there were 3 to 4 million fraudulent votes cast.
If he would have started that, it's like, oh, I would have won much more. There was, over 6 million votes in and if he would have started that message 4 years ago, he would be sitting in this capboard seat and we would have a firestorm in front of us right now. Because people's belief tends to lean towards a repetitive message. Their belief is. So, you say so much about Coca-Cola, Pepsi. I'm just spreading the sodas around. 7-Up, and I'm just doing all the major soda companies right now, just so I can cover my bases. But if you just keep the messages putting forward, and you put the picture of the bears for Coca-Cola and the imagery for Pepsi, for Pepsi during football, on Sunday football and stuff like that. Each of them are trying to nudge their brand into a moment, into a person's purchasing moment. That's what they're doing. And this is just another brilliant Trump branding, marketing, selling person doing the same thing. I kind of wish that there was a little bit more integrity or effectiveness in his presidency, and the obstacles were not in the way he was talking about them being in the way, because nobody started the counter messaging on COVID. If he was on it, if he was pro COVID and pro protection, which he is not, because he doesn't know how to sell a Band-Aid. He'll sell sizzle, but he can't sell something to fix something. So this is why it's going to be very, very difficult, and there's going to be a gradual shifting that's going to happen in the last days of the Trump presidency, because there's a predictability is going to show up. There's a certain set of needs that are going to take place between here and January 20th. He's going to be meeting several needs. So you mentioned earlier before we got on the call about the pardon parade. Who the heck is he going to pardon?
Oh, I'm
And I thought it was the
expecting
funniest thing ever. It's like, how is he going to position the pardonings? How is he going to piss it? And when is he going to do them? Like when? Because he's got like, whatever, 30 plus days to do those, right?
Well,
to get the pardons
yeah,
in.
I mean, actually, traditionally, if I remember my history correctly, often a president will sign a whole bunch of pardons on his last day in office, or sometimes the very morning before the inauguration, if not maybe the day before, because a lot of times they end up being quite controversial. And he just doesn't want to have to hear it or deal with it. He's on his way out. He signs pardons and it's done. Nobody can do anything about it. I honestly expect Trump to be a bit more brazen and unapologetic about it just because that's his style. And my expectation is he's going to pardon all the people that were loyal to him that got in trouble, like, you know, Flynn, and even Roger Stone, who he commuted his sentence. He'll probably pardon him just to erase his conviction. You know, he might pardon Manafort.
Right.
Somebody who even is already serving time. Probably people who don't get pardoned, or somebody like Michael Cohen who turned on him. Even though he was loyal and went to jail because of it, he turned on him later. Trump's like, right. Nah, you're dead to me. Right? Right. I don't know. I mean, this is just my feelings on it. There's certainly no evidence behind this, but I expect, that's why I called it a pardon parade. I expect him to really abuse that power of the pardon, quite honestly.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you use the word abuse there, because
is that a label? I'm sorry.
No, it's a good label. It's all right. We're working off of it. It's not very compassionate or empathetic, but it is. It's a good label. It kind of fits there. Abuse is because it's not necessarily about that I am going to right or wrong. It's just my version of justice versus justice's version of justice. And wow. The reason, my version of justice, and that's, it was not just because, these people, it was them being falsely accused and over charges that were, made up or not really true or not that big of a deal. And I believe recently one of the comedian shows, one of the shows did a list from A to Z of all of the things that Trump has done that was illegal, from A to Z, every letter of the alphabet. I think we should look this up we could do an entire episode on purchasing truth, which is you have all these things on this list of things that were, I'm going to put air quotes here up, and things that were wrong, that media and the court system, everything would call wrong or legally, chargeable. And on a scale of 1 to 10, where do they sit? That's where truth is a truth is a process. It's not necessarily a result. I mean, if we want a Twitter quote, truth is a process of finding out where truth is. Scientists know this. Scientists knows I can't give you the truth about the vaccine because I don't know. We're finding the truth about this, and we are, here it comes, practicing medicine. It doesn't mean they're any good at it. It just means they're practicing it. And everybody gets their chance to practice. Now, if you do not have a degree, or if you don't have any skill in medicine, then your opinion would be low on the practice scale. You're like a T-ball player because you can't do a scientific method. You can't form a hypothesis and prove it wrong or right and then redo it. in order to prove it. So, but there's people, and partly including us, by the way, there's people that say, hey, I know something. Well, do you have any skill at it? Well, yeah, I've been doing high conflict mediation for 20 years. I got some skill at this. Oh yeah, but that really won't work with my mother-in-law. That won't reduce the conflict. I'm going like, oh my gosh, just like I have experience here that this will work, and it will take. You have to practice it. You just can't like use it once and then think, oh my gosh, whatever. You've got to like be a part of it. So really, it's to really pay attention to and just get used to the process of truth telling and the process of what is the version of justice that we want to assess. Some of the things that Trump said and did over his presidency were a level 10 bad. Some of the things that he said and did were a level 2 bad. There were some of the things that he said and did were a level 5 good. They helped certain people in certain situations. They were a 5. They weren't great for the maybe greater good, but they were good for the individual good. So you can't really say they were bad because they actually met a need of certain groups of people that benefited. So that's why I love doing these podcasts with you, Tom, because it gives us an opportunity to explore and spread out what truth is and get some perspective on this.
It's really quite something. It's been quite an experience for me over, years of working with you to realize that, unfortunately, what became a meme that Rudy Giuliani said one Sunday, I believe, on Meet the Press a couple of years ago, that truth isn't truth.
Oh, yes.
While on its face seems absurd, there's some truth to that. So Bill, let's just sort of quickly go over what can we expect, or what should we be looking for in the remaining days of the Trump presidency? And then I wonder if there's some we can look at some of the needs that the Trump voters, the Trump loyalists, who are now very disappointed, to put it mildly, I'm sure, that their guy is not going to be in the White House for another 4 years. What do they need right now? And because I think it's important not to lose sight of that, and not for us just to be like, oh, we won, you lost, deal with it.
Yeah, I even Bill Maher said that the other day. He said, he on his show, he did a really wonderful job. He says, hey, listen, we're married to each other. We're in a relationship with each other. And he talked about a mother whose daughter was caught up in a cult, the way the mother got the daughter out of it was to keep reminding the daughter of the goodness inside of her, not to go head to head with the cult leader, but remind, hey, listen, we're in this together. I'm here for you always, and then gradually the shininess of the cult leader, started going away, so his voters, him and his voters, will be fighting, and they're still yearning for their needs to be met. One of the things that Trump has done a great job of is standing for a strong person that is commanding respect through wealth, commanding recognition through bold choices, engendering connection. Are you on my team, or are you not on my team? Are you seeing how much I'm getting acknowledgement? And because you voted for me, you get acknowledgement too. That's like coming up to a salad bar and eating the salad off the floor instead of the salad at the salad bar. You are getting some of your needs met. It's really,
Boy, I'm cringing at that one.
You totally cringe it. It's like, yeah, I voted for him. Therefore, I get the same acknowledgement because I believe the same thing he does. I get the same acknowledgement he does. Look at that. Look at that person, opinionated person. And I am loyal to that now because I'm getting respect. I'm getting recognition. I'm getting connection. What's the connection? The connection's through the hat, through the slogan. Loyalty. Now I belong. I put my hat on. I can buy the t-shirt. I bought the hat. Now I can buy the t-shirt. I belong. This is my community. This is my identity. And then, you know what the best part about this identity is? I can yell it as loud as I want, and it will make all of my relatives cringe. It'll make all of them cringe. They've been talking their complexity of working together, which I don't like working with others. Their complexity of getting along, trying to figure out how to deal with complex problems. This guy has told me the problems that they're dealing with are not true. Therefore, I can now discard them the way this guy discards them. It's tough when 73 million people that vote for that thing. There's other reasons why they're voting, but they're voting for being as a part of one of these needs that are really a part of it. Tom, wouldn't it be great to wake up and put on an outfit that causes you to feel inspiration, that you feel proud about, that you are passionate about, that you love, that you feel confident? All I got to do is hang this Trump flag up. All I got to do is put this Trump hat on. This is my team.
Oh, yeah. I can imagine Trump supporters felt an enormous amount of pride and inspiration from putting on that MAGA hat or that, t-shirt or, any of that kind of, signage, iconography, whatever. I can imagine. And now, how are they feeling today? I mean, maybe they're still proud of that, but they didn't get what they wanted, right?
Well, the counter feelings are going to be things like helpless, angry first, angry, helpless. After the election, will be hopeless until somebody else comes on. Some people feel depressed. Some people feel scared. There's a whole group that feels scared. A whole group that feels sad.
Yeah,
because the loss is big. The loss, look at
the loss is big, and I mean the feelings are real. Okay, the feelings are.
Absolutely.
I want to say something here, but I want to first acknowledge the feelings are real. Okay,
they are so real.
Absolutely, but some of the beliefs that are creating those feelings are beyond my mind to comprehend. Like people think, well, I don't want to live in a socialist country. I mean, I've heard people say that.
Right. They're scared of that.
They're scared. They're upset. They're, feeling hopeless because they don't want to live in a socialist country.
Yeah.
But you don't, as if that would ever happen just because Biden got elected is just unbelievable to me. But the fact that somebody would think that, but the feelings are real. So that's important that we acknowledge that.
It is, because the thought that's generating the feeling is a real thought that people get scared and have felt scared about communism for, ever since McCarthy started running the same narrative back then. He was selling the same narrative back then. There's communists in the government. We have to get rid of this communist. This person went to a Communist Party meeting. Well, the person you get to do it doesn't mean that it's going to run the thing. And he literally made he was from Wisconsin, I think, or something, wasn't he?
I don't
McCarthy?
remember where
I
Joseph
can't remember
McCarthy was
either.
from.
So yeah, so it was, here's this group of people that we really need to be worried about. We need to be scared about. We need to be fearful about it. I mean, really, seriously, because they, when they are in charge, they are going to do bad things, and we'd rather tolerate the person that's in front of us, that at least he makes us feel better, because he is standing for the identity that we crave as Americans. That, we're number one when measurably we're not. We're measurably not number one in a lot of different things, which is
Yeah.
really very, very unsettling. It's not, because you got to work at being number one, and then you've got to make a commitment towards being number one. And then, and you've got to
So can't you also just be indifferent to something or turn a blind eye to it and become number one? I mean, we're number one in COVID deaths, and we're number one in COVID infections,
It's not the
especially
number
per
one we
capita.
want.
It's not the number one we want, right?
Yeah.
So that's nothing to be proud of.
I feel so sad right now about all the deaths of people dying in disbelief that their last breath is, I thought this was a hoax. That is so, I feel so sad about that their last conscious thought was, I'm helpless and hopeless. See, that's the way many people are going to feel at the end of this. It's like, Tom, has there been a time when you have ever bought something, and somewhere between the excitement of buying it, the excitement of getting it, within like a month or two, the thing started falling apart? It wasn't quite right. The color was off. The things that there was so much emptiness at the end of it, where at the beginning there was so much excitement about it.
Oh, definitely. That's happened to me. Yeah.
There's like a list of things that I can immediately think of. I'm thinking of my mom and the Ford Fairmont, because the car fell apart. It was planned obsolescence, but in 2 years, the whole thing was going to fall apart. That was a little too much obsolescence there. So, so nobody would buy it again. So but that's what's going to happen to 73 million people, is that there's the falling off of, what was this shiny lure that we had? We're on the hook. How do we get that feeling back again? Is there anything for Biden to get us to rally behind? He's going to have us slog it out in doing infrastructure. He's going to have us slog it out in doing climate thing, which is something that my grandkids are going to enjoy, but I have to suffer through because I have to change my habits to get it. This is hard talk right now. This is hard truth telling.
It is hard stuff. And although there is a short-term urgent need to get the virus under control and get life back to normal, and for economic recovery and restoration. I mean, there's a lot of people, a lot of restaurant owners, a lot of restaurant workers out there, cooks, wait staff, all sorts of people that are out of work right now. And that's just one example. There's so many retail businesses are suffering right now, and those businesses need coronavirus relief, which was held up here in the fall. The current administration and the Senate would not address or pass coronavirus. And this is interesting because my father-in-law, he felt that once the election was over, now that we know what's going to happen, that the Senate would get together and pass coronavirus relief. And I was saying to them, and so was my
Nope.
wife saying to him, no, they're not going to do that. They're
Nope.
not going to do that before a new Congress gets installed, because they're going to exercise, the
Solid there.
Republicans are going to exercise their power, and it's not their priority. And my father-in-law was dumbfounded. I was like, what? You actually believe that? And then coincidentally, the next day, Mitch McConnell came out and said, yeah, we're not going to address coronavirus relief in this Congress. So, and not until January. And that's really hard.
It is so hard when they put party ahead of the nation. I mean,
and the head of the people's needs.
Ahead of the people's needs. It's such a hard thing just for a vote or two, or just for to maintain the loyalty. And he just sent them all home. He just sent everybody home. He sent all the Senate home. He goes, sorry, you guys go home. We're not doing anything. So why? He doesn't want people interviewing them. He doesn't want the Senate saying the wrong thing at the wrong time, and that becoming a press whatever. So
well,
it's really hard.
I mean, I don't think they want to give something that would appear like a victory to anybody else. And I don't think that the president in his last days of his presidency is interested in doing something. I mean, this is where really his true colors come out, right? He's not really interested in doing something that meets the needs for others. He's more interested in doing things that meet his needs
and the needs of the party. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, the needs of the party. And then this kind of truth telling is very, very unsettling, because our consciousness as a collective, as human beings, we really struggle with the thought that the person is going to do good. They're going to turn around. They're going to, like, throughout the whole Trump presidency, he's going to pivot now. He's got to pivot now. Isn't he going to pivot now? He's going to pivot on this one. He's going to become presidential. And as soon as he did one little tiny moment of a pivot, a lot of the news thinks, gosh, he really sounded presidential there. He really looked like he looks like he's going to figure this job out. The answer is no. He didn't really try to figure the job out at all. He didn't really do any skill. It's like you hire, and you and I have hired employees like this. It's like, oh my gosh, I thought they were going to like grow into the position. No, they weren't into the position. They were into the paycheck. They now have a paycheck that they're going to do the smallest amount of work for it. And it's going to be a reduction of effort between the time I hire them to the time I let them go, 3 months, 6 months in, because they keep doing less. They're not stepping into, they don't have enough structure. There's not enough foundation for them to step into it. And that's the thing that's really, really tough is this virus, the economic restoration. These are things that we'll talk about on our next time around, because the angry, sad, fearful, helpless, scared, hopeless, depressed people that are going through the emotions of loss, they're letting go of inspiration, passion, because they can't express their passion. They can't wave their flag anymore. Love, they can only praise in private. Proud, they feel confident because he stood for and stands for something. Of course, what is he standing for? The beliefs that he has fed them. That's what he stood for. And they said, oh, you're standing for this, I'll stand for that too. And they felt good about that, because that's what they voted for, is the guy that was going to shake it up. I'm going to throw some sand in the gears, because somehow I got the message that the gears were working poorly. They weren't until people started throwing sand in them, So anyway, so next time, let's take a look at what can we do for economic restoration. How can people kind of rise up in that direction? The virus piece we've got to like take a look at. How do we get the healing part to get a part of the equation? And what are some modest steps that can be taken for economic restoration, to get things going, because it's a dual threat, and is it going to be, January 31st before any relief shows up in an American's mailbox? And the answer is probably yeah.
I'm concerned it may take longer than that before it actually reaches the people. I mean, I think it'll be a priority, but to get it done, but we'll see. We'll have to see.
Yeah.
All right, Bill. Well, thanks so much. Tom. Appreciate this discussion.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you for listening to this Purchasing Truth podcast. We trust that you have enjoyed this engaging and thought-provoking conversation. Our hope is that you've received value, found clarity, and broadened your truth perspective in this episode. If you did, leave us a review or visit our website, purchasingtruth.com. Join us again for another informative and content-rich discussion here at the Purchasing Truth podcast. Don't just accept whatever information comes your way. Join the discussion. Discover your own voice. Purchase your own truth.